This is Ralph Sass. This is Accounting 212, Chapter 7, the second part of the lecture. Where we left off is we used the spreadsheet and we calculated the percentages. Now we multiplied the percentages by the overhead for the various categories. And if you'll recall, we did not have to allocate direct materials, direct labor, or shipping expenses. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is calculate the activity rates. And to do this, we have to know the number of activities in each pool. And in this particular case, they had 10,000 customer orders, probably last year, 4,000 design changes, 800,000 machine hours, and 2,000 customers that were served. So now notice what they can do is they can take the total cost and divide it by the number of orders. Now the total cost, just a quick note here, that total cost, is going down the column. If you go back to that spreadsheet and whatever, if you take a look at the column, it's the number at the bottom. The total activity is 10,000 orders. So what they say is that what their activity rate is it costs $452 to process an order. Okay, for design changes, it costs $760 every time you ask for a design change. $6.50 per machine hour based upon your size of your order. Customer relations were $1,540, and there were $6 million in costs that couldn't be allocated. So direct materials, direct labor, and shipping costs were automatically traced. So now what they're going to do is take a look at the overhead costs, and they're going to break it up into those 5 items that we've talked about. Okay. Then, once they've got it allocated that way, they've come up with the rates. And now the beauty of this is that they can go ahead and put this on either the product. Is a product line profitable? They can put it on a customer. Is the customer profitable? Now keep in mind, there are some expenses that weren't able to be allocated, but for all the expenses that they can allocate, they can now determine, is it profitable to have that product? You'll find companies have stopped manufacturing or selling a particular product. Why did they do that? Because they found out it wasn't profitable. How did they find out it wasn't profitable? By doing something like this. Likewise, there were times where we would tell customers, unless you're willing to pay X, we're not willing to provide it for you because the customer is not profitable. So now notice what they have here. They have information on their 2 batteries. They have 2 kinds. They have Sure Start and Long Life. Sure Start requires no design changes. There were 800,000 batteries ordered on 4,000 separate orders, and each battery took 36 minutes of machine time for a total of 480,000 hours. Notice also then they had this other battery. Okay, this other battery was called Long Life. It did require design resources. There were 400,000 batteries ordered on 6,000 separate orders. There were 4,000 custom designs, and each one took a little longer. So now we can go ahead and determine, hey, is Sure Start and or Long Life the profitable battery for us to have? So we've already had we can go ahead and assign our products to overheads. Notice they did customer orders. There are no design changes for the Sure Start battery. There were no design changes, so that got a big goose egg. There was nothing there. And then based on order size, so 4 million of the overhead costs, 4,009,000, 128,000 got assigned to the Sure Start. Long Life got 7,832,000 assigned to them. Okay, and now we can go ahead and assign it to customers. And in this case, they looked at one customer, Acme Auto Parts. They placed a total of 12 orders. Note that 4 orders for Long Lifes required design changes. So now what they're doing is, and I'm going to show you on a complete income statement how this shows up, but we can also take a look at it, obviously, from a customer's perspective. And we can take a look at what a customer ordered to see if that customer is profitable. So now we're going to look at activity part, Acme Auto Parts. They placed 12 orders. Each one order takes $452. So the total amount of money that that customer cost us, if you will, is $5,424 based upon orders. Design changes were 3,040. Order size 2912, and customer relations 1,540 divided by 1 or multiplied by 1 gives us 1,540 to maintain that customer's records in our account, customer service, what have you. So now we can start to take a look at some product management reports, and the first one we're going to take a look at our product margin sales. Is a product profitable? Okay, is the product profitable? So what we're going to take a look at is the product margins. We have these two batteries. Notice the sales are $50 million, which is exactly what we saw at the beginning of the chapter, and they've now broken it up between their two products. Direct materials, direct labor, and shipping are all directly traceable, so those are easy to put there. And then we have to worry about allocating our overhead. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and allocate our overhead. And at the bottom here, they took the numbers at the top are exactly the same. What they did is they added their activity-based costing to the down here for customer orders, design changes, and order size. And the reason why they did that is now they can take a look at the product margin by battery. So notice, yes, we're losing. I believe they were losing $2 million if I recall correctly. But notice what this tells us: the Sure Starts, which are generating $31,000 in sales, are providing a lot of profit margin. The Long Lifes are not. It's really interesting, but if you look in the real world, a lot of times you'll see companies that have sales going up, but they're less profitable. What a lot of companies use is they use this activity-based costing as their competitive advantage. If they can properly account for and cost a product, this company may very well say, you know what, these long life batteries, if our competitor wants to produce those and sell them cheaper than we are, God bless, go ahead, because it's losing us money. And you know what? Sure Starts, on the other hand, we're going to continue to produce those, and in fact, if a competitor comes in and starts to offer them at a cheaper price, we may have to be prepared to lower our price because it is a very profitable product. Okay, so a lot of times companies will use this activity-based costing as their competitive advantage. So notice what we have here now. Now we can see exactly what's going on, and we can see that the Sure Starts are profitable. The Long Lifes are unprofitable from a product standpoint for a total of $7 million too. And then our customer relations costs down here give us a net operating loss of $2 million. Now we can go ahead and take a look at if the customer is profitable. For Acme Auto Parts, we were selling them $29,000 worth of parts. Direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing and shipping were directly attributable to them. Now we can go ahead and assign their activity-based costing costs and subtract their other costs, customer orders, what have you. And we find out that the customer margin in this particular case is $384. Is that customer profitable? Yes. Now keep in mind there were a couple other costs that we couldn't allocate. So, if we tried to allocate those, but there's no good way to allocate them, so we can't do that. But is this customer a profitable customer? And the answer is yes. Do we want to keep this customer around? Yes. Is there a possibility for, might we want to try to find a way to increase that $384? Yes. But at least this is a customer that is generating a profit for us. Okay. Now notice the problem if we tried to do this under traditional cost system. Keep in mind, we just calculated that the sure starts were a profitable battery line. The long lives were not. If we go back to chapters 3 and 4, if we go back to chapters 3 and 4 and use chapters 3 and 4, okay, we're going to take that total manufacturing overhead of 14 million, we're going to divide it by the machine hours, okay, 800,000. Okay, there were 800,000 machine hours. We'd come up with $17.50 per machine hour. We would then take that overhead and allocate it based upon the $17.50. Notice what we're doing. We're taking the 480,000 machine hours times 1750 to get the 8,000,004. And notice when we do this, it appears that not only are the sure starts profitable, but so are the long lives. Okay? So it appears now both products are profitable. So if your competitor is using this system and saying, hey, these long lives are a profitable business, let's produce more of them, and you're using activity-based costing, you may very well say, God bless, go ahead. Please, produce all those you want, because we know that this is not true. This is where activity-based costing is beneficial. There have been a lot of stories written in journals and what have you over the last 20 years saying how wonderful this activity-based costing system is and how much it's helped companies provide a competitive advantage. The big problem, if you will, is implementation. Every article will always tell you it is a very difficult, time-consuming system to implement. Can it provide them with valuable information? Yes. But is it very difficult? And the answer is also yes. So notice what happens. Okay. In this particular case, and what we've found is this happens a lot. This is not just making up numbers to work. Okay. The traditional cost system, i.e. chapters, what we were doing back in 3 and 4, okay, overcosts the sure starts and reports a lower product margin for this product. Okay. It also undercosts the long lives and reports a higher product. Okay. The bottom line is that the stuff we studied in chapters 3 and 4 may not be the best way to cost your product, and this might be using activity-based costing. Keeping in mind activity-based costing is very difficult to implement. Okay. Now there's a couple of reasons why this occurs. Okay. First reason is that traditional costing allocates all manufacturing overhead to products. Activity-based costing only assigns manufacturing overhead costs consumed by those products to those products. Okay, the one product, and keep in mind, the one battery that had no design changes under a traditional costing system was getting assigned some of those costs. Under activity-based costing, you don't use design changes, you don't get any of those costs. So it helps make products look it helps you look more accurately at whether the product is profitable or not. Okay. Second reason, traditional costing allocates all manufacturing overhead costs using some sort of a volume-related allocation base, usually machine hours, labor rate. Activity-based costing also uses non-volume, number of orders, okay, things like that. And finally, traditional costing, and keep in mind, you cannot use activity-based costing for IRS purposes. It is not compliant. So this is a system we have to set up for us to make decisions, but it is not a system that we're going to use outside and send to our competitors, what have you. Okay? Traditional costing disregards selling and admin expenses because they are assumed to be period. Activity-based costing traces shipping costs to products and it doesn't say it, and customers. Okay? And overhead costs. Okay? So it's a lot better. I mean, it's a lot better system, but it's very difficult to implement, to be quite honest. Okay. Lots of companies also do activity-based management. Okay. Because the beauty of activity-based costing is it tells you where to focus your resources. So activity-based costing will help in activity-based management. Okay. These rates, these activity-based costing rates, also can provide valuable clues concerning where there is waste and opportunity for improvement. Also, where you can charge money. If something's costing you something and customers are willing to pay for it, you should be able to charge for it. And likewise, if customers aren't willing to pay for it, then the question is, why are you doing it? If the customer's not willing to pay for it, why are you doing whatever you're doing? And companies will also a lot of times benchmark in this particular case off of whoever is the industry, an industry leader for those types of things. Okay. I don't think any company uses activity-based costing for external reports. And the big reason, my opinion, ABC doesn't conform to GAAP. Okay. So, for that reason alone, most companies don't use it for external reporting. Keep in mind, auditors also maybe, you know, if you're sitting around with a stopwatch or what have you, they may trust it. But if you're just interviewing employees to come up with those rates, they may not trust it. But the big reason is it's not GAAP compliant. Okay. Already talked about a lot of these issues. Want to just talk briefly about 2 or 3 of them. First off, okay, you need 2 costing systems, and the reason is it doesn't conform to GAAP. So what you need is at a minimum you need a GAAP system and you need an ABC system, which means now you've got 2 sets of accounting systems set up. Okay, it takes a ton of resources then to set up an entirely separate system, and keep in mind that system is not going to be accepted by the auditors. You can't use it for IRS purposes or public reporting, so why are you doing it? Okay. There's a huge desire to fully allocate all costs. That may not be possible. Okay. That may not be possible. Keep in mind, this is relatively new. Okay. It took off late 80s, early 90s, really. It was not around much before then, if you look through. So it's relatively new. Older managers in particular, those in their 50s and 60s, have never seen reports like this. Younger folks probably have because of a class like this or what have you. But it's not they're not as familiar with it as they are with the traditional systems. That concludes the lecture for Chapter 7. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know.